today's project, I'm going to show you how to use these decorative masks that are in the mini catalog on page 65. They're called Butterflies and Flowers Layering Decorative Masks. And I just store them in an empty standard case, and there are 6 different masks here. There are a few background pieces, and then there's also these lovely butterfly images that you can layer, and also some flower images that you can layer. So I'm going to use one of the flowering images today. I'm not actually going to layer it, I'm just going to use it as a stencil to make a background. So I'm just going to lay it on my piece of paper. I'm going to tack the paper down lightly with some Stampin' Seal just so it doesn't move on me. And I've got a blending brush here and Pool Party ink. So I'm going to lay the mask on here. Now if you want to be sure it's not going to move on you, you would want to tape it down, but I really don't want to go that detailed because I'm going to be moving this mask over a few times. So what I'm doing here is I'm starting with the ink, and I tap it off just a little bit on my scrap paper first, because that first time that you grab that ink from the ink pad, it is a little bit dark, so I don't want it to be that dark. Now you might be wondering why my ink pad has those little spots on that, and that is because I re-inked it last night and the ink obviously hasn't flowed around just yet. So I'm just sponging lightly. You can see how I use my finger to press down on the sponge as I'm blending blush, sorry, as I'm moving it around. So I'm just slowly working my way across this piece of basic white cardstock and blending that, and you can see that I'm sort of filling in the holes as I go, and each time I'm dabbing it off and then rubbing on that ink, and I'm just holding down that template, that mask, with my fingers and being very careful not to go off the edge of the template as well, otherwise I'm going to get a harsh line. I think a little bit later I do actually do that, so I'll show you that. So with any luck you can cover that up, or you can do it again like I end up doing. Now you can see that particular one was really dark, so that's actually going to prompt me to do this again. But it's good to see that, because it's not only the amount of ink that you put on the brush, but it's how hard you press. There's a line right there that I got not being careful. And then I'm feeling like there's some gaps there, so I'm going to try and add in some stuff. So if you're very careful, you could just get that one little piece. And again, if you don't want to be that careful, what you could do is you could use some masking tape and tape it off. Something, you know, painter's tape or something that would come off easily. So again, I'm just filling in some of the kind of holes. So this is pretty, but it isn't exactly the look I wanted. So I am going to grab another piece and do this again to get more the look that I want here. So this time I'm going to be a little more careful to go lightly with the ink so that it's got kind of an overall look that is similar, because I really just want this to be background piece, and I think it ends up turning out better this time. Again, one of the tricks would be dabbing off that ink so you don't have that initial plunk of dark ink when you go. And really, again, this is just background, so I don't need it to be perfect, but I did want it to be more uniform looking than that first piece. So I'm just going to speed the camera up here for a second so we can move on to the next part, but you get the idea. So here's my 2 finished pieces. You can see that one is much lighter than the other one. Actually, I'm not even sure which one I like better now at this point, but we'll put both of them together and then we can see what we like. So for the next part, I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus, because I've got something I want to stamp on here, and I want to be sure that it is not only in the right position, but also one of the things I like for this, using the Stamparatus for, is if you need to restamp something to get it darker, then you've got it in the perfect position. And the reason I do this sometimes is for words that are thicker, which is about what I'm about to use. So the little template that you see there on the Stamparatus is just a little piece of cardstock that I've taped together, and that's just to allow me to stick my card into the corner of that little template without having to stick it into the corner of the Stamparatus, because sometimes it's harder to stamp it up in that corner. So I'm using here the stamp set called Biggest Wish. It's one of my faves, and I'm using the word friend here. So what you want to do is position the stamp right where you want it on the paper, then use the plate to pick up that stamp. And then you're going to just make sure you're readjusting everything. I've got magnets on the template and magnets on the card. And then the other thing I like to do is I like to stick a stamp set underneath the plate so that the plate is flat. So that when I go to ink it, because I'm going to be inking it with the ink down, I want it to ink up flat. So what I mean by that is I'm not getting anything on the edges that would allow that to transfer to the paper. Now it's hard, unless you're using a little tiny ink pad like a spot, not to get some ink on that plate. So when you do get an excessive amount, you want to wipe that off so it doesn't transfer. So I'm going to stamp that, press down firmly, and then you can see that my F didn't quite get there, so I'm going to, and you can see it's actually on the stamp. I missed just pressing down in that area. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just ink it up again and give it another try. And that is, again, a reason to use the Stamparatus when you are sure you want to get it right. And that looks much better. So when I've spent time doing this background, it's like I want to scrap it. No, I think I decided here that I needed one more inking, and so there we go. That's nice and dark, and was able to restamp it all in the same place each time. So while I've got it all out here, I'm going to actually do this other one. So I'm just repositioning everything. This is actually a tip I would give you if you're making a card, is to make two at the same time. Partly because then it's just as easy to make two as it is to do one, but also if you do have any mistakes or anything on one of them, then you can take the best parts out of what you're doing and use it. Sometimes too, when I'm coloring, I may change my mind about the color scheme, so at least I don't have to recreate everything from scratch. I've already got some step parts done. So again, same problem here. There's a little bit of a miss on the words, so I'm just re-inking it and going again. And I've got a little baby wipe I just grabbed here to grab that excess of ink that's on the plate, like I mentioned. And then to finish it off, I would clean that stamp and put it away. Normally I'd grab my chamois and use that to clean it off, but I had that baby wipe handy, so I just used that. My chamois actually is dry. I need to put more water on it. So I'm just giving that a good clean in all the nooks and crannies, and then I can just peel right off my plate and put it right back in the case. So next I'm going to work on some die cutting, and I'm going to use this gorgeous mother of pearl paper that is also in the mini catalog. I'm hoping you see the shine on that. It's so pretty. And I've got here some adhesive foam, so it's double-sided, and it comes in a package there, a bunch of foam sheets. So I've got a little piece of the mother of pearl, and I'm going to peel off this piece of foam and stick it on the back of the mother of pearl paper, and then I'm going to trim everything up so that it will fit in my little machine. That little piece of paper is still good, so I'll be using that, and I'm just trimming off the excess foam because I don't want everything sticking. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to use some new dies here. These are the Amazing Thanks dies, also in the mini catalog, and there's two dies for each word, a thick and a thin one. So you'll see the difference. So you can use those to build up words, which is super fun. So I want the bottom part to have dimension, and I could have used just dimensionals. I could have cut it out with the mother of pearl and used dimensionals, but this is a lot easier to put the backing on it first, and then I don't have to even think about it. So I've got my mini little Stampin' Cut Emboss machine, and I've got plate 1, plate 2, then I'm going to put the mother of pearl paper down with the foam sheet. I realized I needed to trim it just a bit to fit it into the machine, and then I'm going to lay that paper with the pearl paper side up, and I'm going to put my die on there with enough room that I can hopefully put another one, maybe even two words on there. So then I'm putting another clear cutting plate on top, and away we go through the machine. There we go, pretty awesome. And like I said, I tend to prepare at least two as I'm going, so while I've got everything out, I'm going to run it through again. Okay, so next I'm going to take a piece of basic black cardstock, And again, I want this to be sticky just to make it easy to put down after. Again, you could use mono glue or liquid glue to do this, even glue dots, but again, I find it a lot easier if it's already got adhesive on it. So I'm using our adhesive sheets, and they come in big long strips, and I'm just going to peel off a piece here that I've pre-cut down, and I'm going to lay it on the black, and I just need it big enough for the word, maybe 2, not sure. So I'm going to trim this black down just rough, as you can see. It'll just go my black scraps, and then I bring back in my machine, and this needs to go with the adhesive side down. And now I'm going to use this smaller die that also says amazing, and I'm going to run it through the machine, again leaving enough room to be able to do it a second time. So now I've got all my dies done, and I'm going to use my take a pick tool and just use those little poke holes that are on the die just for this purpose, just to poke the die through and pull it out. And I can do the same for both layers. Next, I'm going to put together the card base, which is basic weight, so just 8.5 by 5.5, folded in half. And then I've got a piece of Magenta Madness cardstock, cut at 5 1/4 by 4, and I'm going to just layer that on as well. Just using my seal adhesive, just need a little bit in each corner and a little bit in the middle, and that forms a nice perfect 1/8 of an inch border. Doing it like that. Seal it down. And then at this point I realized that, oops, the second piece that I intended to use was cut a little bit short. So although I intended to use the lighter piece, I am now going to be stuck with using this bigger one because it fits. So I'll just cut something down after and use that other piece up as well. So they're both pretty, so I'm decided to go ahead with it. Again, a little bit in each corner, a little bit in the middle, and put it on there. Now this white piece that I did the stenciling on is actually just a little bit smaller than my normal layering, just so I can have a smaller border. There's like a 1/16 inch border, and so I just cut that 1/8 of an inch bigger to get that border. And if you want those measurements, just make sure you're signed up for my newsletter, and you get that automatically in your inbox when you sign up. So I'm peeling off the mother of pearl adhesive foam now, and just poking through any of the little letters that need a little bit of help. Sometimes I find it's easier to stick it on the silicone mat because then I can peel it off easily, and that little G was giving me some trouble getting that little hole through there. So it's pretty and shiny, and I'm going to put it on here above. So now we've got Amazing Friend. And then I'm going to add the black, which again is on sticky as well. And again, this just needs a little poking through. Sometimes easier to use that mat. Those little poke holes just help release the paper. Super easy. And it should peel right off. And then that backing peels off, and it's like a sticker, which is fantastic. I don't have to fiddle with any little bits of glue. And those adhesive sheets are in the main annual catalog from Stampin' Up. So this just peels off. Now this is slightly fiddly to put it together, but you just basically want to center it on the other one. And it gives it that nice lift and sort of outline. It's a very cool look. I love it. So I just take a minute and go through and just fasten down each letter. Doesn't that look amazing? So next I'm going to use set of dies here. They're called Pierced Blooms. These are on magnet sheets because I hold them on my wall. And what I've done is I've just die cut a piece of Magenta Madness cardstock, and to get that cute little stitched flower, very cute. And then I'm going to add a dimensional to the back of it. Just one dimensional is all we need. And I'm going to pop that on there, so that's going to help bring through the color from the mat there. And I'm just going to tuck it right up in underneath that die cut like that. I love these colors together. The pale blue of the pool party and then the brightness of the Magenta Madness and the accent of black is just awesome together. So what I'm going to use next here are the new Iridescent Rhinestones, and I picked these because they have both a blue and a pink hue to them. So again, really bringing through those colors that are on the card. And I'm just going to use the Take a Pick tool. Try not to stab myself by putting the cap on first, and then you could just use that little putty on the end to pick up your jewel and then place it exactly where you want it. So pretty! And I love this card. The back of it actually looks great. I don't mind the fact that there's some variation in color there. And then you can stamp something if you want on the inside as well. So next I took the piece that was a little bit short and I cut a mat that fit. So if you look closely, you can see that this one has got a bigger border because I had to cut the mat a little bit smaller. And the other difference is I put the flower on the left as opposed to the right. So what do you think? Which one do you prefer? And of course there's a lighter background on the other one. So I can't decide which is my favorite. I like them both. And then just a little tip as you're finishing crafting, be sure to put your dies away because I have had it happen where I'm missing a die for quite some time. So be sure to put those right away. And also any caps on any scissors or glue, be sure to put those away as well. Even if you don't have time to clean up the rest of it, put the things away that might get lost. I have learned that by experience. And finally, to clean up the stencil, you could take again your chamois if it's clean and wipe it down. A baby wipe, you could run it under the sink and pat it dry with a paper towel. Whatever it works, you want to obviously make sure it's dry before you put it away. I did both sides because I had played with the other side and also some of the ink might come through. And like I said, just make sure it's dry before you tuck it away completely. So that's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in and checking it out. If you need a catalog and you're Canadian without a demonstrator, I'm happy to help you. And check back to stampwithjen.com often for other tips, tricks, and ideas. Thanks for watching.